Okay, thank you. Ladies and monsieurs, I have no microphone tonight, but I'm going to speak a little bit tonight about our modern culture, how we can improve our modern culture, improve our own lives, and improve the lives of generations to come. A key feature of our modern society is what we call rape culture. And that is, rape culture is basically a insensitive attitude towards rape. You can find different numbers if you look it up, but something around 1/3 of women and 1/5 of men are molested or raped in their lives. That's a terribly abysmal statistic, but the good news is that we can improve it. We can improve the world. A major barrier to improving the world is guilt and shame. It's almost a universal phenomenon that we carry excess guilt and shame. We carry sexual guilt and shame, racial guilt and shame, economic guilt and shame. We carry all these forms of guilt and shame, and that serves to harden our heart and to make us less likely to help those who are suffering. But those who are suffering need our help, and we are capable of helping them. And by helping others, don't we really help ourselves? Yes, yes, of course. So an experience I had maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and unfortunately it's not an uncommon experience for me, but I was walking down the street and I saw a woman and she was screaming and crying, talking to herself, walking down the street. And when she came closer to me, I kept a safe distance so as to not intimidate her at all, but I asked her, "Sister, what's wrong?" And she was just coming, and I know people are trying to have fun and I don't want to be a bummer, but you know, this is our reality. And she was just coming from having been raped by multiple men who she had considered friends. And she's left to walk down the street and scream and cry to herself, you know? And I wonder, you know, what can I do? How can I help? Since then, I've come up with a couple thoughts, a couple ideas, and I wanted to share them with you about how you can help survivors of trauma, you know, especially sexual trauma, but other forms of trauma. The first thing you need to realize when you're talking to a survivor of trauma is that they may use anger as a defense. To shield themselves from even more hurt, they may lash out you in anger. So try not to respond with sarcasm or anger yourself. Often a lot of people are in denial about things that just happened to them. And what they need is not only someone to ask them, "Are you all right? Did anything happen?" but someone who can ask that question and then step back, not press them for an answer, and just listen to them talk about whatever they want to say until they're comfortable to express what really happened. Doing these things can have a monumental effect on society, like the so-called butterfly effect, where a butterfly flapping its wings in America, you know, that little flapping of wings, that little tiny insignificant breeze can grow larger and larger and turn into a tsunami over in Japan. These little things that we do, they echo in society, you know. This works in the negative or the positive. Say you're driving down the highway and you have a bit of road rage. Someone cuts you off and you get angry. And you can flick them off and scream and honk and cut them off. And then their day is worse. And they might go home and they might mistreat their children because they're just so stressed out they don't know what to do. But also, you know, they could cut you off and you could get mad, but you could let go of that anger and rage. You could just give them a pass, and maybe they get home and they're a little bit kinder to their children than they might have been. And then their child might not have the epically bad day they could have otherwise had, and they could go on to do some really wonderful things for all of society. Now, we'll never know if our positive actions have any meaningful repercussions, But we will know, and we can know, and we do know that they might. And we do know that when we're mean, when we're cruel to people, that as well might have a repercussion, and we know that that repercussion will be negative. So it's like Hollywood has us fucked up in the heads in so many ways, thinking that if you're going to help the world, you need to save the world. One man. One man. No, it's not how it works at all. Any meaningful change that's ever accomplished happens through a collective. You know, but everything everyone does, every moment changes the world. So the idea that one person can't change the world, it's ridiculous. If you think about it for a moment, everything we do changes the world every moment. And if we put a little bit of intention to that, that can go a long way. And I don't mean to sound preachy and shit up here when people are trying to drink and chill, but I know that almost everyone in here has a heart that actually wants to help. And it's not your responsibility to save the world. And I'm not encouraging or saying you should do that, but I'm saying just the small kindnesses that you can do really can have a large effect. You know, and actually one of the major small kindnesses that you can do that will have a huge effect on the world is to yourself, and that's to get in touch with your own trauma. We've all been traumatized. In a big scale, there's social trauma that happens to all of us, like say 9/11 or school shootings and stuff, you know. That's traumatic. Even though you can tell a joke about it or you can act like it, you know, rolled off your shoulder, that traumatized you a little bit. And then we all have our personal traumas, which we don't want to face. We want to be strong, you know. We don't want to be little babies. We don't want to be crybabies. You know, we want to be tough. We want to suck it up. But that has negative effects on us. That even has negative effects on our physical health. To take time, and you don't need to do this a lot, but at least once, to take time and think about these traumas that you've had and how you really felt, you know. Maybe it will make you want to cry. You should go ahead and cry. It's not an unmanly to cry, or it's not a childish thing to cry, but to feel your feelings and to honor your feelings is actually a courageous act, you know, and that actually benefits all of society when we just take time to honor our own feelings, you know? And that opens our eyes a little bit to the suffering of others. Because like I said, a lot of times suffering people, to protect themselves from more pain, they'll act out in anger. They'll act like they're hard or they're violent or they're tough. To not get defensive about this and to not take this personal is doing a great service to society, you know? And sometimes selflessness is selfish. Likewise, sometimes selfishness is selfless. Sometimes doing things for yourself benefits others. You know, and it's not so simple as donating money to ending climate change or the Red Cross. It feels like a selfless act, but that might be selfish. What's really important is our hearts, you know, and that sounds cheesy to say, but it is so true. What's really important is our hearts. Politics don't matter. Economics don't matter. I could almost go so far as to say the environment doesn't matter. What matters is our hearts. Because when we're acting from our hearts, everything else will fall into place. So, getting in touch with our guilt and our shame, and how our guilt and our shame is played against us. A real easy way to see this is with so-called race. There is no such thing as race. It's a lie. The idea there is black people and white people is a lie. I think we can all agree that the government lies to us. I think we can all agree that society lies to us. But we're invested in some of these lies. We're invested deeply in some of these lies. Why are we invested in lies? Because of the guilt and shame which they're created by. People will often, they'll collect their miseries like they're, and they'll guard them jealously, you know? They'll collect their suffering and hold them close instead of just releasing them. This is the same as guilt and shame. Racially speaking, everyone in America either suffers from guilt or shame. Why? Because race is a lie. And it's used to divide us and to conquer us. And because it's a lie, and because we hold on to it so dearly, this is part of my core essence. I am a white person. I am a black person. You know, people feel like that is what they are. It's not true, but they feel that's what they are, and they must defend it. And this leads to all forms of violence and suffering and isolation and loneliness. The idea that the white race went and conquered the world is a lie. We, everybody, conquered this world. We quieted our hearts, we made deals with the devil, and we conquered ourselves. And this is where we are right now. But the wonderful part is that we can move forward. We can stop teaching our children lies like they're a white person or they're a black person. We can stop teaching those lies. Another big point I would like to express is the idea of false rape allegations. False rape allegations are extremely rare. You know what else is extremely rare? It's extremely rare for rape to even be reported to the law. It's such a huge issue. And again, let me say, something like 1 out of 3 women and 1 out of 5 men has been raped. If you don't know anyone personally who's been raped, let me rephrase that. If you're not aware that anyone you know has been raped, it's just because you're not aware. Guaranteed, people close to you have been raped. But the way our culture is right now, and it's not going to stay this way, and it wasn't always this way, but right now, the way our culture is, it makes people feel like no one cares about such things. So one thing we can do to change the world, and if you think you're going to go into the election booth and you're going to vote against Trump or you're going to vote for Trump and that's going to do a goddamn thing, just like if you think voting for Barack Obama did a